Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of the Making of Pottstown. We are here in the beautiful Pottstown High School library, and we are with a no stranger to Pottstown. Matter of fact, we're about 300 yards from a street that's named after him, with Mr. John Armato. And John, welcome, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Pottstown School District, the history, and almost you're pretty much a cornerstone of this place. So before we get into that, why don't we first find out where you came from, and not Mars, but
Right.
where you started. Like, I know you were born in New York, and how you kind of like matriculated down to Pottstown and made this your home.
Well, first, thank you and Gus for having me on today, and I hope that we can have one of our usual Gary John talks.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My family moved to the Poconos, Stroudsburg, when I was in grade school. Went to Stroudsburg Public Schools, then East Stroudsburg State College at that time, and right out of college looking for a job, and I was extremely fortunate to have Pottstown hire me. Matter of fact, kind of uniquely, way different than the world of today when we hire people, but I was doing my student teaching at Easton High School, and the then principal, Chuck Brown, walked into the classroom and sat down and said, "I'm here to see if you can teach."
Oh, really?
And that was kind of my interview.
So what year did you come to Pottstown?
My
then?
first year teaching
This
here.
was and this was your first like contractual job
Yep.
at Pottstown.
This is my first,
So you first and
only
last. That's impressive. That doesn't happen anymore in today's.
Right. It's a whole different dynamic.
Sure.
But I started teaching here in 1969, teaching what we call oral communication, some people call public speaking. That evolved into a number of what then we were calling mini courses. So I taught science fiction, sports literature, debate. At one point they needed some help filling a spot in the social studies department, so I taught problems in American democracy. Then eventually went from the classroom, as you know, to athletic director. That position evolved into director of co-curricular activities. And then I left that position to become director of community relations. When I left, I was replaced by a very capable, perhaps I would say the best athletic director that Pottstown has ever had, Gary Dorenza.
Well, we're not even talking about me today, so let's move on from that subject. So 1969, now here we are in 2024. What are some of the events that you kind of remember through that, like that history, then, now, that have happened that kind of stand out to you?
Yeah. Well,
And they could be anything. They
Right.
could be, the individuals, the superintendents, the principals, et cetera, or specifically events that that kind of stand out.
yeah. Well, public education in general has undergone a great deal of change, evolution, and Pottstown School District is the same, Pottstown High School is the same. The fact that we are in this room right now, in this library, in 1969, this space did not exist. This was actually the ceiling, if you will, of the old gymnasium.
Right.
So when and I would say our renovations was certainly a big milestone in our community and certainly in our school district. So in terms of saving space and dollars, the gymnasium, the old gymnasium now,
Right.
was converted into classrooms and locker rooms. A second floor was built above it, and we're actually in that
Right.
second floor. If you look up above us, you'll see the beams that were part of what the old gymnasium was.
Right.
So, and then our continued evolution of from when we were 6 elementary schools to 4 elementary schools, when we were two junior high schools, Northern and Central,
Right.
and there was the big Northern Central rivalry, to one junior high school now, and a high school that accommodates students 9 through 12, which is a much smaller school in terms of enrollment. You know, we're about 900 students. When I first got here, we were someplace in the neighborhood of 1,800 students, and that was
9 to 12?
10 to 12.
1,800, 10 to 12?
Yeah.
Wow. So that was the largest enrollment for the most part throughout its history?
Sure. The early 1970s.
And that was before Pottsgrove became a district as well. I think that was all included, was it not? Or was it just just the borough?
Pottsgrove existed. So,
Okay.
so certainly in 1969, the borough of Pottstown and the Pottstown School District had contiguous borders, meaning 5.2 square miles. If you were in Pottstown, you were in the Pottstown School District.
Right.
And if you were out of both. You were in both or you were out of both.
Okay. Well, some of the accomplishments over the years. You got a phone call there?
Okay.
I see, very important man.
Yeah.
Whatever that academically, athletically, socially, community-wise. What are some of the things that really Pottstown has been associated with, and that kind of set Pottstown apart? Because there are some things that are very unique to a town school that still exists, that wasn't really kind of picked apart, so to speak, like in many other communities.
Yeah, so right, and there are a lot of pieces to that evolution. So Pottstown School District, as a school district, we're one of the oldest school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. We're 185 years old.
Wow.
Okay, and Pottstown High School specifically, because of the way education was back then, Pottstown High School is, this year we will recognize our 146th graduating class. And over that span of time, we've had over 23,000 kids graduate from Pottstown High School, and I would venture a guess that you can't find a field of endeavor, professional, entertainment, scientific, take a field, artistic, where we don't have Pottstown graduates who are excelling and making a difference in their communities.
What are some of those examples, just off the top of your head? Who can you think of that I know that have been honored with like the honor roll? Like who are some of those, that kind of would stick out? I mean, I can think of a few myself, the Tom Schumans and...
Right, and somebody like a Tom Schuman or an Aaron Beasley who...
Sure.
Jeff Green and Jeff Satterwhite,
Sure.
who both excelled. We have kids who have played in the Super Bowl, and we have kids who have represented the United States at the Olympics, a pretty wide span. We have kids who have been in the military, who've held high officer positions, and somebody like a Donnie Lash, who not only held a high position when he was in the military, but then transferred into the Pentagon as part of that structure. A guy like Joe Price, who is commander of SEAL Team 4.
Right.
People like that. We've had kids who have been involved in entertainment, like a Benny Sims, who's a renowned jazz player.
Yeah, right.
We've had lots of kids across the board. Name fails me right now.
Well, you are getting a little
I'm
bit
getting older,
up in age.
But we have the person who holds the original patent on what was the basis of developing freezers in refrigerators.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. How about, you talk about the highlights. What are some of the challenges that have faced, Pottstown,
Yeah.
the district, and
Again, I don't know how much of the challenges are really different across public education, because in public education, unlike parochial and private, everybody who comes
we're going
through
to get into that.
Yeah, everybody who comes through the door deserves a quality education.
Right.
And our school district mission, our stated mission, is to prepare each student by name, take a personal approach to it by name, for success at every level. So there are a lot of challenges, because in a public education setting, students come to you at varying levels of preparation to begin with. So we have youngsters who come into kindergarten who are very well socially, academically oriented to begin with, and we have students who again, like a lot of other public schools, they don't know their colors. They don't know the letters of the alphabet.
Right. So I know that in developing any district and moving their mission forward, you need partnerships. What are some of the partnerships over the years, either locally in the community, state, and federal, that have kind of grown initiatives here that have been long-standing and successful?
Yeah. So I'll give you one really quick example. Pottstown is a very unique and special community. I have to tell you, when I first got here, I knew I found my home. I knew this was where I wanted to be.
Why?
Because of the people that I encountered, and because of what exists within our community and how it has grown. And we are a community of a town of a lot of different cultures, but we are one community, and that rings true to me every single day.
Yeah, right. I saw that too when I was here. It is a very close and tight-knit community, and they will swell in support when needed.
100%.
Right.
So one of the examples of partnership, as I was saying, we're very fortunate to have Montgomery County Community College campus right here in town. So a lot of our students get to benefit from that entry level into post-secondary education, one that is considerably more affordable.
So Pottstown uses like the articulation agreement to get kids in high school get college credits prior to leaving.
We have kids who graduate from Pottstown High School who have already earned enough credits, college credits, to take care of their first 2 years of college.
Wow.
In terms of dollars and cents, that's $100,000 easy that youngster has saved. And part of that partnership with the college also comes with the Foundation for Pottstown Education, which has developed a dual enrollment program that provides for the financial support for the youngsters to go to the college, the community college, to begin with. So we have kids that are extremely fortunate in that respect. One of the other initiatives that we have with the college this year is Monco 360, which is an initiative designed to provide enhanced STEM education support for middle school students. So every day we have one of our teachers, Mr. Bachman, who takes a van and takes a group of our 8th grade students to Monco to utilize some of their equipment, their environment, to teach STEM education. What they're getting now will reap benefits 15, 20 years from now.
Absolutely. And I know the high school is considered a comprehensive high school. So
100%.
I think there's always the college track student,
Yep.
but there's also a growing population of students that are moving back into the trades.
Yep.
And back into the industry world. And I think for a period of time, many high schools kind of put that on the back burner, so to speak. One of the things that I've always found attractive about Pottstown, it's a comprehensive high school.
Yeah. So thank you for leading me through to it.
I got to help you out, I know that.
So for people listening, comprehensive high school means that in one building, our students can get all of their academic requirements done, and also if they are interested in career technical education, they can have that here, as opposed to any other school district in the area who has students who want to be involved in career technical things. They have to get in a bus and drive to a special school,
Right.
of what people used to call VOTEC schools,
Yep.
where our students never lose their identity, maintain
That's
a
a
consistency.
good point right there.
Yeah,
That's a very good point.
100%. And we have had kids who have been in block one, and that's another. I'll explain blocks
Right,
in a minute.
right.
In their first period class, who were in AP, European history, and in their next block they go to auto.
Right.
Now we call it auto technology.
Right.
Okay, to learn the trade of becoming an auto technician. So it's tremendous, and we have a wide variety. We have auto technology, construction technology, health occupations, food services. We have a whole. Forgot cosmetology, where you can get a haircut.
Neither one of us would be looking for any cosmetology needs.
So that wide variety that provides kids with unbelievable opportunities.
And I know there's been some partnerships with groups that have, kind of latched on to those vocational programs as well, that have, almost like a career path for students that come out of, the electronics or the construction world, that, have kind of, employers have come and, sought those students
Right.
to,
Yeah.
fill their, their vacancies.
Yeah. So it's an interesting part to watch if you have the privilege. I'm going to say privilege. Of having been here for a long period of time.
1969.
Yep. That you get to see so much of that evolution, and I get to see kids that I had in class back in the 70s who are now teachers,
Right.
administrators,
Right. Yes, I know it well. I just saw my first 54-year-old former student. I said, how can you be 54 years old?
Right. I always tell them I started teaching when I was about 12. Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us kind of recircling back. You wanted to talk about block scheduling, and I know
Yeah.
that's something here, but
Yeah.
not only block scheduling, but maybe we move in and transition into the elementary world, where there's still 4 neighborhood schools that are still,
Yeah.
so talk a little bit about what block scheduling means
Yeah.
at the high school or secondary level.
Yep. So two concepts that we use here at the high school. One, block scheduling. So if you remember back in the days when you were in high school, there were probably 8 or 9 class periods in a day. Each one of them was probably about 40 some minutes
Right.
long. And every time the bell rang, boy, you had to hop and get to the next class. We've condensed that into the core subjects that a student's going to take, and condensed that into 4 periods a day. So there are 4 blocks in a day. Each one is about 80 plus minutes long, which allows for a much more time in the classroom to concentrate on what you're doing. But it also does this: it changes the way education was provided. Back when you were in school, in that little one-room schoolhouse,
Yes.
that you had to build the fire to keep everybody warm.
We actually had to build our desks too.
Back in those days, pretty much everybody sat in rows.
Right.
You didn't change your seat. The teacher stood up front, gave their lecture. You took your little notes, and then down the road, you took a test where you regurgitated everything, okay? Now, with 80 plus minutes, you can't stand up in front of the room and talk for 80 minutes. You have to.
Well, you could, but.
Not possible. You have to make interactive programs for kids to get involved with, and there's more group work within a classroom. There's more of a engagement piece as opposed to I'm going to stand up in front and talk.
Right, right. So look, let's move. So now that's the high school kind of model. The middle school model is still a traditional grades, 5 through 8 in one building, et cetera.
Right.
But what's unique about Pottstown too is, it's 5.2 miles for the borough, and there's still a number of elementary schools that are walkable. So I think give us a little synopsis of the walkable and neighborhood elementary schools that have been preserved.
Right.
And there's always been some banter back and forth about is that a good idea? Should there be one super site, so to speak?
Right.
What do you see as the benefits
So,
of elementary of the multiple elementary school model?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of small.
Well, you are small.
Yes. That's why we get along so well together. Of creating a community where you know everybody. To see a principal, an elementary principal, walk down the halls and know each student by name, like that creates a whole different atmosphere. And then when you work with the parents, to know the parents, and even better, when the parents come in and they are your former students.
Right.
It's a different world than there's 3,000 kids.
Cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's 3,000 kids in our school and I'm not sure who's who.
Right.
And that's not to say, that has its advantages
too.
too.
There's place for everything.
Right. But in terms of creating community and in terms of creating what I believe is essential to good education, good coaching, good living, building strong individual personal relationships with people, that is one of the keys to success. I don't care whether it's teaching in elementary school or it's running a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Without that, you lose so much. And that's one of the things, quite honestly, as we talk about evolution, it's one of the things that concerns me about the social media and the electronic technical media that exists now, because it has made, in some ways, very positive and has made things very, very
sterile.
Right.
Global, but sterile.
Right. And you lose some personality to that. So let me just tell you. Let me tell you one other, because we were talking about changes. Let me tell you about one other structural change that we have here at the high school. This year, we started a program called Lunch and Learn.
Saw it on the way in.
Yep. So and maybe Gus can get a shot of the hallway before he leaves.
He's going to use all his tape up on you.
If you remember, same thing, back when we were in high school, come lunchtime, there were 4 probably lunch zones, and we'd fit 350 kids into the cafeteria.
Mass migration.
And the sounds would be all over the place, and just a little bit of chaos.
Usually where most discipline
where
problems
discipline problems occurred.
Correct.
So this year we took the approach of, let's see what happens if we say to students, listen, we're going to give you some freedom, but you have to know how to regulate yourself. Downstairs on our first floor, the entire hallway from the gym lobby all the way up to the other end of the building, which is almost a quarter of a mile.
Right.
Are lined with chairs and benches and tables where 2 or 3 or 4 people can sit down together and talk and eat lunch. So the kids go to the cafeteria, pick up their tray, come to their little spot, and they can actually have a conversation with one another. And then if they're done, and there's still time in that block, they can go into the gym and play volleyball, basketball, have some recreation. When that lunch period is over, we change. The other half of the school comes to lunch, and the students that were taking lunch, they come upstairs to classrooms to what we call learn. And there are specific classrooms where they can get additional help, where they can work on group projects, where they can where their class is. It's an interesting dynamic to watch. When we first started talking about it, I was pretty skeptical about a lot of things, but I got to tell you, our kids, 99.99, rose to the occasion, and it's something really nice to watch.
Very creative. You know, just in our little chat here, I see you start to become more animated, and you know, I can see that your passion still is, you know, about the district. So, you know, I don't think I mentioned yet, or you didn't mention yet, you've gone from, you know, employee all the way through a number of different positions, and now now you're a school board member, which is a politically voted upon appointment to oversee a school district. So I think a school board member's job is always to make sure they choose and evaluate a superintendent, balance the budget, and make sure policies are congruent with good schooling, so to speak.
Right.
So what's the vision? If you're, as a school board member now, you started, you know, again, grassroots, 1969 as a classroom teacher, and evolved through administrative positions. And now you are, you know, kind of, you're unique because you still have an involvement with community relations aspect of it, but also you're a separate kind of entity as oversight. So what, from the school board's position, what's the vision for the Pottstown School District?
So you're right. I am kind of had like a unique path.
Sure.
And one that has provided me with a great deal of opportunity to understand things at a different level of how people interact, how programs work, etc., which makes it pretty interesting. You know, the last, whatever it is, probably 20 years or so, as Director of Community Relations, that's been a volunteer position, full-time volunteer position. And then about 8 years ago, somebody said, geez, you know, maybe you ought to run for school board. And I was fortunate to be elected. Hope that next time around, I'm fortunate to be reelected. And get to bring, in that position, get to bring some insight into what's happening in our district and where we want to go, that's perhaps different than others. I will say that we have been very, very fortunate to have a school board that works cooperatively together. Doesn't mean we always agree on everything, but it means we have learned how to work together without having strife and discord
amongst yourselves.
Right, amongst ourselves.
Right.
And that is, honestly, that is a testament to the leadership that some of our superintendents have provided. Presently, Mr. Rodriguez, before him, Dr. Sparagana, who were able to provide that leadership for the board. Our present president, Katina Bearden, is an excellent leader of our group and does what is necessary to keep us focused on the mission. The mission is exactly what I said in the beginning, to prepare each student by name for success at every level. What's that mean? It means a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different kids. It's not the same for every youngster. That's why we say by name, because what you need to help make you successful might be way different than what I need.
Right, right. So let's talk about some hot button topics that have surfaced over the last, quarter century. Funding.
Yeah.
And funding, and I'll preface it with an opinion that funding doesn't solve all the problems.
Right.
But what are some of the issues that funding, and specifically lack of funding, fair funding, has created in the public sector realm? Because then I would like to also transition into the charter school issues and parochial schools and school choice that you guys must deal with all the time, as far as additional funds being allocated out the door that students in Pottstown never see a benefit from.
Right, right. So, right, funding isn't the only answer, but it is part of the answer. So with the proper funding, you can develop programs, you can add programs, you can ensure that students have a sufficient number of teachers to provide the educational support, sufficient number of counselors to provide the support that they need. Pottstown School District, like the other 499 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania, are funded through federal money, state money, local money. Okay? A number of years ago, Pennsylvania developed a formula that said, this is what it should take to properly educate a student. Okay? And this is what we will fund. A number of years ago, the state of Pennsylvania provided 50% of the funding for a school district every year.
Right.
Okay? Now it's about 31%. How's the difference get made up? The difference gets made up, doesn't matter whether you live in Pottstown, Pottsgrove, Owen J. Roberts, doesn't matter where you live in Pennsylvania. The difference gets made up in what people refer to as property tax or school taxes, means comes out of your pocket. The state government said, hey, we're not going to put up the money that we said we should. Understand that we said we should, and just last year, the state was taken to court,
right.
And the court agreed, guess what, state, you're not living up to your part of the obligation, so you got to do better. They haven't figured out a way to do that yet. They're still dancing around it. Okay? But that means that at the local level, you have to make up for it. Well, you can only make up for so much. And depending on what school district you live in terms of what type of taxable properties exist. If you're living in a school district that has a big pharmaceutical company in it,
right.
that is valued at $1 billion, that's different than living in a community that has
small
homes
businesses.
in it. Small businesses
Right.
and homes.
Right. So, and in part of that, and some of, that we dealt with when I was at Pottsgrove was, now the initiative of school choice, and the referendum voting for school choice as well as charter schools that basically allow students to go from a Pottstown school district or a Pottsgrove school district to a charter school, which is not a brick and mortar school, that the district then is responsible to pay for that student to go, and there is no formula for that expense, so to speak.
Yeah. So the whole school choice piece, which will only become more prevalent as we continue on, and is an excellent reason why we need to be able to provide quality public education. Because remember, in the state of Pennsylvania, 1.8 million students are in the state of Pennsylvania that get their education through public education. They're the people that are going to go out and become the future of our country.
The backbone of our workforce.
Yeah. So I mean, I always say in education, we're in the replacement business. You know, someday you're not going to be here anymore. Somebody's got to do that job.
Right.
So so let me backtrack.
Somebody's already doing my former job.
Right. Right. But you left him a lot of notes on how to do it. So let's go back to cyber charter school.
Right.
So a cyber school, obviously, no bricks, no mortar. You check in on your computer and all your classes, all your interactions are done that way. As the law exists right now, if a student goes from a public school to a cyber school, the amount of money the student per diem, the amount of dollars that we figure out it costs every year to educate one student. So you take the big budget and you divide,
Right.
you know. So whatever that number is, that goes to the cyber charter school, okay? Who's not going to have any overhead expenses like we're going to have, not going to have any accountability like public schools do.
Right.
You know, routinely, cyber schools say, hey, come here and all your computers and everything will be free. They're not free. We're paying for them.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
When they develop advertising in magazines, televisions, radios, okay, we're paying for them to advertise their product. Okay?
Right.
When they put on concerts, you know, musical concerts, and invite people in, they're not paying for it. We are.
Right.
So that's the first part. The second part is, so a cyber school will take students from wherever. Let's say they take students from the 6 surrounding school districts.
No borders.
Right. Let's just say for argument right now, the Pottstown, Pottsgrove, Springford, Owen J. Roberts, Boyertown, they take those students from those 6 schools. They don't get one fee, they get 6 different fees. Whatever the per student cost is to educate a student in Boyertown, that's what goes
okay.
to that cyber school. That's different than it's like, hey, you're going to buy the same car, but depending on where you live, I'm going to tell you how much you have to pay for it.
Right. Right.
And then when that moves from regular education student to special education student, then the costs increase even more.
Right.
So where it might be in the Pottstown School District, let's say ballpark, about $9,000, $10,000 a year for a regular ed student, for a special education student, that could be $27,000
Right.
a year.
Based on their needs.
Right, if you're identified as that. So what's a cyber charter school want to do? They want to identify everybody as a special needs student because that means more money to them.
Right. So they are some significant challenges.
Oh yeah, and understandably, and COVID proved this, some students do better
Sure.
in an environment.
Well, just like your mission, every student by their name. It's an individual, it's an individual piece.
Right.
You got a little animated when you started talking about like concerts and everything, and really from a standpoint of a former co-curricular director, athletics, same, we were colleagues for a long period of time. There's no question about my passion for programs, and I do believe that co-curricular programs, whether it's band, clubs, athletics, etc., are the true backbone of school districts. And there's empirical research out there that supports it tenfold through Fortune 500 companies. It's amazing how much research is out there that says if you have quality programs that are supported, celebrated by the district, you will have more productive students. They will be in class more. Their attention to classroom, their grades, etc., will be it's off the charts.
Yep.
So let me ask you a question. As a school board director, this is where you're going to start to perspire a bit. Why are more dollars not allocated for those programs?
Right.
I mean, it's usually less than 2% of an entire budget.
Yes.
I mean, now granted, there's facilities that go along with it. You know,
100%.
Pottsgrove built a new gym, Pottstown has a new gym, like those facilities, but they're part of the infrastructure, et cetera. I'm talking about the programs that truly engage kids to want to be at school, motivate kids to, you know, high attendance, keep their grades above a certain level, et cetera. So,
So
you know, we can get on this soapbox for a while because I believe that they're underserved.
yeah, well, then they're going to have to make room on that soapbox for two people.
Okay.
Okay. Because you know, I am a strong believer in co-curricular activities, and I'm a strong believer in semantics. You're never going to hear me say the words that a lot of people use, extracurricular.
Correct, right.
Extra to me means...
You didn't hear me say it
Yeah,
either.
I know. So extra means, hey, you can do it without it. And the answer is no. Co-curricular means that all of those programs, whether they're athletic or non-athletic, support the academic mission of the school.
Extension of the classroom.
So in terms of just pure evidence, because some people have a hard time believing that. Some people just
Why is that, though? That's my question.
Because personally, I don't think they investigated enough. I think they just see stereotypes. So they say, oh, well, the classical athlete, football player, doesn't know anything, just plays football, or the wrestler who just wrestles doesn't know anything. However, when I was doing the job of director of co-curricular activities, I said, you know what, let's see what this really means. So I was fortunate to have somebody in IT, technology, who could input a lot of information. At the end of every marking period, we were able to identify kids by group. I'm in the band, I'm a football player, I'm in National Honor Society, whatever.
Right.
As a group, those students compared to students who did not participate in anything, their grades were higher, their attendance was better, and their discipline record was smaller.
Right.
Why?
So we live in this data-driven decision-making, yet there's the data,
Yep.
and again, it gets overlooked oftentimes.
Yeah, it does. And in some districts, particularly like ours, where adding means adding to the local tax burden.
Sure.
And in Pottstown, our tax burden, which means it's a calculation of how much you pay in taxes compared to what your ability to pay is. We rank in the top 15 in the entire state of Pennsylvania, 499 school districts. We're in the top 15 of overburdening taxpayers.
Right.
So that being said,
So that's a fine line.
yeah. That being said, however, the past couple of years, because of COVID money and some additional federal money, etc., we have been able to do some additional things in terms of programming. So at the social emotional end, we've been able to add
Guidance
counselors
Yep.
at our elementary buildings. Here at the high school, we've been able to add some additional after-school programming that not only provides structure for kids, but provides somebody who has a vested interest in you moving forward. The coach or the sponsor is going to be more concerned about Gary moving forward. So he's going to be after Gary.
Yep.
So we've been able
Back to personal relationships.
100%.
Once again, it all ties in, which is amazing to me, that sometimes we just get lost on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it amazes me sometimes of how evident it is, but just what you were just saying, but we neglect it.
Right.
We neglect it.
Right.
So we've added a number of programs that provide students with a greater opportunities. You know, last year, we started a girls volleyball team.
Right.
As you know, the state of Pennsylvania last year sanctioned girls wrestling as an official sport. So now we have a girls wrestling team. We've been able to do more in terms of, matter of fact, yesterday at 6:30 in the morning, I was here, and our DECA kids, that's a Distributive Education Clubs of
Right.
America, is a marketing group. They were all packed up going to King of Prussia to compete in the district championships.
Right.
And so what does that mean? That means that they are taking written exams that have to do with marketing and sales. They're going to do role playing, which means they're going to go into a room with some judges. The judges are going to give them a real life business problem and say, okay, show me how you solve that.
Right.
Explain it to me.
Right, right. Kind of as we're wrapping up here, and everybody's going back to class because it looks like lunch is over. So, what? Maybe give us two things. What are your two greatest thrills from 1969 to 2024? Two of them, because I'm sure there's hundreds of them, but that really just stand out to you that have been just the greatest thrills of being a part of Pottstown School District.
Wow.
Put you on the spot. I told you you're going to start to perspire.
Let's see how well I can tap dance.
That's right. That's good.
So I will say that one of my greatest thrills is seeing accomplishment of students that I see every day, see their accomplishments as adults. So I'll go back to, hey, when I walk down the halls in a building and I walk past some classrooms and I see people in there teaching that
you
hadn't
taught.
yeah,
Right.
I got to tell you, I go like this. When I go into Rupert Elementary School and I see Matt Moyer, principal, who has some national recognition
Right.
As an administrator, I go, wow, I had him in class.
Right.
Okay, not in the sense that I did something.
No, sure.
But in the sense of being proud of them, which brings me back to what I haven't said yet, and what I continually say every day in a lot of my communications: proud to be from Pottstown. We have in our community, we have a lot to be proud of.
Right.
And we need to focus on that. Sometimes people, in general, people focus on the negative things. And I'm not saying that everything is rosy and
Sure.
beautiful. There are lots of problems, every place.
Right. That's in everything.
Right. The challenge is, how do we live up to
Challenges
taking
are what
those
make
challenges?
people get up in the morning.
100%.
So what's another
See,
one?
I knew there's a reason why I like you.
Well, and I like you too. So, and I was honored to actually replace you. So it was good. It was good. So what's another one? So now that's the people part of it. Is it seeing like the development of new buildings? Is it, well, here, I'll throw one at you. This will kind of turn a little bit. What's the turf field? There's talk about adding a turf, and again, we go back to pride. It gives students pride to see facilities that, that are nice.
Yeah. So 100%. So we always talk about.
I mean, this gym is a fabulous gym. It is a premier event site venue.
Yep.
And I think that's important. I think that's helpful for kids to identify and give them like internal pride. Like you come into our gym, like look at this place.
Right. So the gymnasium's a good example.
Library.
Of that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's all about developing that culture, that sense of pride, and you can take pride. You don't need this to develop your own sense of pride, but it certainly helps. Okay, and seeing some of the physical changes over the course of years has been very rewarding. The whole turf field discussion, that goes on in a lot of school districts.
Right.
You know, you measure the playing value of turf as opposed to natural.
Sure.
And then you start, inevitably, you have to talk about the economic piece, and
Right.
then you cannot escape the environmental piece. So in our school district, as you probably know, we have a pretty strong sense of environment. So we have more trees.
Right.
And we just in finalizing a stage now of adding an additional 400 plus trees on our campuses. We utilize the meadows as an environmentally cushion. So artificial turf.
I might know someone that's pretty environmentally impacted as well.
Yes, yes, I think you do. So we have to weigh that against some other things. Down the road, the school board's going to have to make some decisions about,
Right.
Do I envision that all of our fields are going to be turned into turf fields? I don't envision that. Is there a happy middle ground? Because I am a big believer of Goldilocks. Too much, too little, just right. And when I look...
Does that refer to your oatmeal meals at the porridge, I guess it was called?
Yes. So people that are familiar with the Potts Grove School District know that you have Falcon Field, which I think is an ideal sports venue. It's big enough for one field, one side of some small bleachers, a makeshift press box, but it allows for such a great variety of sports that can be played on it. And in terms of, as you know, an athletic administrator trying to schedule things as they get backed up with inclement weather makes a great difference. And from a strictly athletic perspective, playing field hockey on artificial turf and playing field hockey on natural turf are two way different games.
Absolutely.
One much safer than the other, one much faster than the other.
Right. Yes, I might know the individual that might have designed that facility over there.
Well, that guy did a great, I'm going to tell you, he did a great job because it is an ideal facility.
It is, it's nice. Anything else you want to add to wrap things up? We've covered a lot of topics.
Yeah, we covered a lot
I like
of ground.
the fact that you wore blue today. I was hoping that I could work in a little, haberdashery joke, but you came with navy blue, so I can't even go down that route.
Well, no, you can't. So we have undergone, we as a community, we as a nation, have undergone a lot of evolution. Evolution is okay because everything changes. The problem exists when people want to hold on to things beyond when they should. And wow, I mean, I got it. I have a lot of great memories, but I understand that there's a difference. There was a day when the only way that I had a phone was grab a hold of one that was connected into the wall and talk.
Right.
And now I have this that does virtually everything.
Right, right.
And there's good and bad to this.
Yes.
And we didn't even get into that debate
Technology.
about, how has technology helped and hurt education?
Right.
And it's done both.
Right.
Just like everything else.
Well, it's the world that we live in.
Yeah. And that's why.
Continually evolving.
And I do believe this, that every day we ought to get up looking to accept the challenge, because the challenge is going to be there. Life is there. The challenge is going to be there every single day, whether you want it to be or not. It's there. So what are you going to do?
Look at how you evolved.
Yeah.
You would not talk to anybody when you were athletic director if they were bothering you. Now you have a phone that you're connected to 24/7. Well, thank you. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. This is great. As always, awesome to talk to you.
Thank you.
So, thank you once again for another installment of the Making of Pottstown. Today we're happy to have John Armato, and he shares many insights about the Pottstown School District. Until next time, thank you.